and welcome. My name's Julie McCrossan and it's my great pleasure to welcome Sarah McMullen Roach to discuss the Rainbow Rights Toolkit, produced by Coda SA and supported by the South Australian Government's Office for Ageing Well. And the Rainbow Rights Toolkit was launched in 2024 and Sarah McMullen Roach was there for the launch along with a huge crowd of LGBTQ plus people and our supporters. And Sarah is a lecturer in occupational therapy and a PhD candidate at the University of South Australia. So big welcome to you, Sarah. I'm keen to hear what parts of the Rainbow Rights Toolkit you think are particularly good for people to look at. But just in a nutshell, you're doing research with all about older rainbow people. Can you tell us just a little bit about the purpose of your research and whether you'll be talking to rainbow older people?
Yeah, definitely. So my research really came out of being an occupational therapist and also being a lesbian and not seeing myself aging. And that was a bit scary because I can see myself aging. And I thought, well, how do we age as rainbow people? How do we age? And I asked that question a little bit too much and that turned into a PhD. And so now I'm looking at how are rainbow people navigating aged care in Australia and also how are we using health and aged care as we age as a population as well. So some of that has been speaking with older LGBTI plus people and some of that has been looking at previous work that's been done and some of it's been using data that's been captured down at the Registry of Senior Australians. So quite a lot of areas to look at, but getting a really comprehensive picture of what is happening in Australia right now in aged care.
And when you say Registry of Senior Australians, have I got that right? Just what's that?
So it's a unit within SAMRI that they collect data from aged care assessments and that data is then linked with other data. And so you can start to understand health and aged care patterns of use a little bit more.
Okay, and SAMRI is the South Australian Health and Medical Research Institute. And our discussion today about the Rainbow Rights Toolkit is all about South Australian law and South Australian organisations, but of course many of the issues are relevant. But if you're looking at anything specifically and you're living outside of South Australia or anywhere in the world, make sure you check it out in your local area. But look, let's get to the question of rights, because I think one of the key things you want to communicate based on the work you've done so far is that we need, as older rainbow people, to get to know our rights and to really get to know our aged care providers when we're looking at housing options. Can you just tell us a bit more about that and why you think the considering housing options section of the Rainbow Rights Toolkit is really worth having a look at?
For me, it's something that has come up a lot in some of the previous work I've done and some of the previous research. And it seems like it's a bit of a global phenomenon that older rainbow people are really scared of residential aged care, particularly. Like there's a real pervasive fear about residential care. And it's really interesting because when you start to unpack that in the research, what you see is actually it's a perceived fear, not a lived fear. And so a lot of people are scared looking forward because they don't know. And what I loved about the toolkit was it said, well, this is how you can know. And there was that beautiful silver rainbow tool where you can actually ask all these questions about, are there activities? Are we going to be able to watch LGBTI plus movies in aged care? Can we have, same-sex dancing? Can I share a room with my partner who's of the same gender? Will there be days celebrated that are important to me? And I think when I looked at the research and then when I looked at the toolkit, there was this beautiful alignment that said, actually, people knew the answers to these questions. I think a lot of fear gets alleviated, because once people actually go and experience care and realize they can ask those questions, a lot of fear leaves the people and they go, oh, actually, it's not what I thought it would be.
And a big message I'm hearing from you there is that we have a right to ask questions and almost an encouragement to ask questions. The thing about being a rainbow person is that it's all about coming out again and again, isn't it? Because if you're going to look at a number of different residential aged care places, as you've raised them, it's almost like you're saying, come out when you're asking the question so you can check it's going to be okay. Is that what you're saying?
If you're comfortable, obviously it's wonderful, and then you can start to judge. And a lot of the previous participants and other work I've looked at have said, once I came out, I watched for the reaction. And that was a really big sign for me. When I said, this is my identity. Obviously, if you don't feel safe, there's ways to do those questions without coming out. I have been, as part of my research, sometimes cold calling aged care places and just checking and asking the questions. They don't know who I am, and that's okay. So there's ways to do it. But, the big thing I like to drive home, it's a little bit of a catchphrase for me, is you have a right to ask. And as aged care providers, and having been one, we have a responsibility to answer. And so there's a two-way street there, and it's okay to ask. We should know the answers to those questions.
Okay, thank you. And for people who are learning about the Rainbow Rights Toolkit for the first time, we're talking about housing now, and the kit covers 4 main sections: overcoming discrimination, housing, health, and planning ahead. And I think in our conversation today, we're going to be addressing all those areas in a way. Just before we go on, you said you're an occupational therapist. Can you just explain what that is and how this broader research fits within that framework of being an occupational therapist?
Yeah, it's a very common question. What is an occupational therapist? Because we are very diverse, and it depends which setting you see us in. But really, we're about helping people engage in their occupations, which are things that are meaningful to them, which support their identity, which support their sense of well-being. It's not just about, getting people's physical health back, but physical health for what? Mental health for what? Cognitive health for what? What do you want to do with that? And so for me, occupation and identity are really closely embedded. And when I explore some of the occupations that maybe people lose when they go into residential care, it has a big impact on their identity as well. So sustaining that for me is really important, and learning about how those identities are sustained through occupations as well.
Well, that's interesting. I should say too, the quick reference guide, you'll have noticed that at the top of the kit, it lists all the different areas with sort of interesting questions. And I recommend it to our viewers and our listeners, because it's a way of thinking, what are the questions that I want to have answered? And the one you're talking about at the moment is considering housing options. Is there anything else about housing you'd like to say at this point, Sarah?
I think the big thing is just to think about your home being a bit of your sanctuary. Where do I get to feel safe? And again, it's not just about, can I stay with people? What are the laws and the rules? It's about the culture as well. And again, don't hesitate to ask and plan ahead. I know we're going to talk more about planning ahead, but plan ahead for your housing, because there's nothing worse than having that decision taken off you. And I'd say this again, having worked in aged care, I would encourage people before they were even needing care, go and have a look at them. People will welcome you in. You can do tours. You can go and meet other residents. Like, it's such a wonderful thing now that you have the option to do this. And there's nothing wrong with this planning ahead. I've spoken to a few people and they're like, no, I've started already and I love it. It's like an open house. Like, it's just quite curious. You can have quite a bit of fun.
That's so interesting, because it goes to this question of fear, doesn't it, that you raised right at the beginning. And so are you suggesting that, you're not 40 yet, I don't think. No, you're not 40, so you're in your late 30s. I'm 70. So I'm well and truly, I should be travelling around Adelaide, where I live, and visiting places. 2 or 3 things I should be looking for when I visit residential aged care and think about my future, other than the rainbow issues. What else should I be looking for?
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, and it's really hard to articulate, but sometimes you're just looking for a feel. What's the language used about residents? And you can hear that walking around in the corridors, Are they referred to as a person or a bed, or, what is the language used around older people? Is it respectful? Is it, does it uphold dignity? Obviously we have the rainbow tick, and that's a rainbow specific thing. It's a really robust accreditation to get, and most people probably do know about it.
Remind us about what is the rainbow tick and why is it important to look for it?
So it's the only accredited and certified rainbow training. So there is other things which are really fabulous, silver rainbow, there's diversity training, all those sorts of things. But the rainbow tick is organisation wide. So you'll guarantee that everybody in that organisation has been trained in LGBTI plus history, in what care needs might be, in any differences that may need to be supported to help people.
And there is information in the Rainbow Rights Toolkit about the rainbow tick. Let's go to considering health options, because that's another section of the kit you think it's really worth looking at. Why is that important, that section?
I think for me, it's probably a little bit biased by the research I've done previously and also the fact that I am a health professional. But I feel like sometimes as a community who haven't had rights for their entire life, if we think about the history of rights in Australia, we're only looking at 30 years of legalisation of homosexuality, roughly. And if we've led a life where we're not used to having rights, sometimes we drop the standard for ourselves a little bit, and I see this in my research. People would say, oh, it was good, I wasn't, abused, or I wasn't yelled at. And I'm like, well, that's not good service. That's just baseline service. And so I think for me in healthcare and a lot of the work I've done, people are avoiding health checks, they're avoiding health care, they're avoiding accessing a lot of government-funded services from this fear perspective or low expectation perspective. And that's leading to a lot of poorer health outcomes later on in life. And so for me, I think it's really important that we go, actually, I have rights to have good, proper, person-centered healthcare that meets my needs when I need it in a timely manner.
And there is information in the Rainbow Rights Toolkit about our rights, so that they're good sections to have a look at, sort of to arm yourself with confidence. Just that issue of expectations of our health professionals. Say a little bit more about that. What are our rights, or what should be our expectations as rainbow people, but also as older people?
Yeah, I in one word, high. Our expectations should be high, because health professionals, most of us, and again, I speak as a health professional, we're registered with an accredited body, and we have to meet a certain set of standards. It's a privilege to have that registration. And so to meet those standards, we have to practice in a non-discriminatory, accepting way. We have to be aware of diversity. It's part of our training. And so you can expect that your health professional has done that training and has a responsibility to continue to do that training. Of course, they may make mistakes. Everybody does. And it's about going, can I pull that up and will they respond? As a health professional, we have to respond to feedback. It's part of, again, our obligations to provide service. And so it's okay to do that. It's also okay to change health professionals. We don't always get along with our health professional. I know this from my own experience. And it's okay to go, actually, we don't fit. You don't understand who I am or my lifestyle. Nothing that they're doing is necessarily wrong, but you have choice in your health professional. You don't need to settle for anyone. And this is made really clear, I think, in the toolkit as well. It's like you have choice. You can change. You can put a complaint in. You can give feedback, and it shouldn't affect your care in any way.
I guess what I was just thinking as I listened to you is, while we do have the right to change our health professionals, it is a little bit harder to change residential aged care. I guess when it comes to choosing residential aged care, that checking in detail before you move in, it pays off. That's the key nub of it, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And again, feeling that you can check more than once. This is a decision about where you're going to live. And for many people, it's about where they're going to die as well. This is where I'm going to end my life. And on what note and as who do I want to do that?
Brilliant question. The third area of the kit I think you wanted to particularly encourage people to look at is the safeguard your future rights. And there's all sorts of information there, about advanced care directives, enduring powers of attorney, wills, and more. And I should let people know that when you go to the particular sections of the Rainbow Rights Toolkit, you click to the live website of different organisations and government agencies and non-government agencies. So the information's up to date because you're literally going to a live site. So what are the key future rights that you think people need to safeguard?
Yeah, I think, again, it's about that making a decision about who and how you want to leave this world and how you want to leave those you leave behind as well, but also how you want to be cared for when maybe you're not in the best shape to make that decision for yourself. Because we may all get to that stage. And I think many people think, advanced care directives are, they're for older people or they're for when you're palliative, and they'll wait for that time. That's not when you want to be making that decision. I've got my advanced care directive in place now, as does my wife, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And
Just tell us in a nutshell, what is an advanced care directive and its fundamental purpose? And then we'd love to hear more about how you and your wife filled them in.
it's a really good question. So a lot of people do misunderstand what advanced care directives are. And it really is about what's going to go on in your healthcare when you don't have the ability to make those decisions yourself. But it's about, what are the health decisions I want made for me in the moment when I can't make them myself, and who do I want making those decisions? And which is really important for Rainbow Family when we're looking at family of choice as well. Who do we want to be chosen to make those decisions for us?
And when you say family of choice, what do you mean there? And why is that an important piece of information for Rainbow people?
Yeah, so family of choice are the family that we choose to have around. So they may not be blood relatives. And so some of those legal rights don't automatically pass over to our family of choice. But are the people we've said, actually, this is who I want to surround myself with. And we know this is important, particularly for Rainbow people, because we have histories of rejection from, our biological families or our families of birth. And so this choice is really important, that it's, who do I want around me? Who is my family that I choose to be my family?
So tell us about you and your wife and how you went about making your advanced care directives together.
Yeah, definitely. So I started the process with just over a cheese platter and some wines. And, what would you want? And how would that look? And what decision would you want me to make on that behalf? And we had quite a bit of fun. And I have to admit, it was a really uplifting experience. I didn't think it would be. I thought, it's going to be okay. We're both health professionals. But actually, to realize the rights that we had, but in both our lifetimes, we didn't have at one stage. And to go, actually, we can now demand this as LGBTI plus people, and they're equal rights. Like, for me, it was a real moment of gratitude to the generation before me, because I thought, well, you've done so much work that I can actually have this choice of actually having my wife in the room, which we know wasn't a choice, even 30 years ago. And so there's something really wonderful, I think, about doing it together and recognizing the power that you have and the rights that you have to make those decisions.
You almost see it as a celebration of hard-earned rights.
Yeah, I really do. And I think, particularly if you were the people who were earning those rights, for the younger generations, I would just sit back and go, well done me, well done me. Like, I played a role in that. For every little bit of advocacy, little time that you pulled something up, we're now in this position that we have equal rights in these moments. And that, I think, it's crucial. Health and death are very important parts of people's lives. And so we want to do them right.
Just before we close, why are you so passionate about this topic?
Oh, just lucky, I guess. I think for me, it really does come down to, having worked as an OT, I saw a lot of people that were struggling in aged care, and I had suspicions that they weren't able to be their authentic self. And then I also have this great gratitude, because I know that times, like, I've been in that generations where times have been changing in my lifetime. And I know that a lot of that I've inherited the work of others. And so for me, this is almost a gift, a small thing that I can do to say thank you so much for making my life so much easier, my rights so much clearer. I really want to do this work to give back, but also I want to ensure our family ages well. And I say our family, our Rainbow family, that we age really well. Because for me, aging is such a beautiful process, having worked in it. And I think everybody deserves to age in the way they want, who they want, how they want.
Well, Sarah, I want to thank you for making a contribution to the ongoing advocacy and information, and by being part of this marvellous series by Coda SA. So I want to thank you too for watching this information about the Rainbow Rights Toolkit. And you can find the toolkit at the COTA SA website. COTA is Council on the Ageing, South Australia, the COTA SA website. Or you can simply Google Rainbow Rights Toolkit SA. And please share this video and the podcast, if you're listening to us. Share it to help raise awareness about the rights of older Rainbow people. My name's Julie McCrossan, and thank you so much for watching this. This interview was recorded on the land of the Kaurna people.